cloud. There we go. And then we are going to broadcast. Hey guys, for everybody who has joined us here, we're right about on time, getting ready to get started. Master Moody and Master Smith and Mr. Dunne, why don't you gentlemen take a second. Master Moody, why don't you introduce everybody else that we have here while I get all of the other pieces of things ready to roll here.
Okay, well, Thomas Wright here, who's got a very successful school in Memphis, Tennessee, growing like crazy and is in the ATA. Started with us about 2 years ago and really not doing very well. You could say a little bit more about that on the downside, but just doing gangbusters right now. Well over 40,000 a month and growing strong and shooting for bigger numbers. Joseph, you've been doing fantastic as well. I think similar numbers and doing great. I'm not. Where's your city, Joseph?
New York, Central Valley, New York.
Okay, good. So that's really two really. I mean, Memphis, Tennessee, Central Valley, New York. I mean, you know, the people that say, "Hey, it won't work in my town." I mean, we got two pretty good examples. We had a few other people that weren't able to be on our call today, frankly, because they were on vacation for a couple weeks with their family. And Colby Winkler, who that's really two really. I mean, Memphis, Tennessee, Central Valley, New York. I mean, you know, got a little bit of echo back there, but
if I fix that, the other live cast was echoing from my computer, so that should be fixed.
Okay, but I mean, I think we've got some pretty good examples of schools that, as I was saying, some of the other guys that they weren't able to make the call today in a lot of other parts of the country. 2 or 3 people were on vacation and doing so well that their school's running fine without them while they're gone for 2 or 3 weeks and having their staff run everything. So, but we're really glad to have you guys here today.
Yeah, and as we get started here, and we have quite a few people who are on with us already, and quite a few more who are joining us. Hopefully they can all get a seat in here. There is a little bit of a limited space limitation relative to the number of people we had registered. But let me give a little bit of introduction and background. I'm going to make it short, but I'm Stephen Oliver. I've been running schools professionally. Well, I opened my Mile High Karate organization in Denver in 1983. I worked for Grandmaster Jeff Smith and Jun Rhee and the rest of their team in Washington, D.C. while I went to Georgetown University, and really had a school before that in Tulsa, Oklahoma, although calling it a school compared to what we do now is a bit of a laughable term. You know, in my background, I moved from Washington, D.C. to Denver and opened 5 schools in 18 months, 6 schools in 36 months. Not a recommendation, by the way, but was up to 1,500 active students and well over, inflation adjusted, over $3 million a year in the 80s, and then multi-million-dollar organization, 80s, 90s, and into today. And Jeff Smith here, former world light heavyweight martial arts champion, more relevant. And I mean, if we went through his fighting accolades, we'd be here all hour. But the more important thing is professional school operator since the 60s, head instructor, general manager, vice president of the Jun Rhee Institute, again, a multi-million-dollar organization, 70s and 80s, into the 90s, owner of world champion Jeff Smith martial arts or karate, well over $1 million a year, one location, inflation adjusted, $1.5 million, $2 million back in the 90s, and then in moving forward. And has been really at the leading edge of martial arts school operations since. Bob Dunne here is been behind the scenes as a coach, consultant, support mechanism for thousands of professional martial arts school owners, really since 15 years now, right, Bob? So not to underestimate him. We have Senior Master Greg Moody from Senior Master in the ATA, multi-school owner. At one time, he had 8 locations spread across 2 states, right, Master Moody?
Yes,
and a multi-million-dollar multi-school operator who's also been working with me for over 10 years, and has been one of the top school owners and certainly one of the top coaches and consultants. in the ATA. And what I want to tell everybody who's on here, and we have a bunch, is we do have an open chat forum. You can click the Q&A and ask any questions you want. Master Moody, I'll let you be the designated Q&A operator, since sometimes I have a hard time seeing it on my ridiculous monitors here. But what we want to do is give you a little perspective on what we're trying to accomplish today. You know, I want to tell you to begin with, this isn't a sales pitch. We're not trying to sell you anything. Nobody's going to ask you to whip out a credit card, or you're not going to get a link popped up to buy anything today. What we do this for is basically the same as you would do a first intro in your martial arts school. If you, I'm sure you know what that is what we do is we're looking to give each and every person who participates, and we had, I think, a couple hundred people register today, each and every person who participates a lot of very valuable information. But also we're looking for those who are a good fit for our program and our support, that we can move to much higher levels. And some people that I saw come through and registered for the program, frankly, are not big enough and not far enough along to be a good fit for us. Others I know would be very productive and very valuable. And what I will tell you is there's only one call to action today, and that's if you're a good fit, if you're a good quality candidate, and if you think that we have something to contribute to you. What we'd like to do is talk to you personally, give you a little bit of free coaching. We'll give you a little analysis and evaluation of where we think your school is right now, where it could be. That analysis really will have four components: marketing, how to get more people in the door; enrollment, how to convert a higher percentage. It'll give you some feedback and thoughts about what your lifetime student value looks like and what your dropout rate looks like, so that overall those are the key components that we really focus on to grow your school. But our only call to action today, and you can write this down right now if you want, our only call to action today is pick up the phone, call 720-256-0208. And again, I'm going to say that a couple times. It's 720-256-0208. Master Moody, I'm sure you can put it in the chat box too there for me. That number goes directly to Bob Dunne, who's here with us. He's going to participate a little bit and abstain himself. And what that call is about is if you think that there's some opportunity to either learn a little bit more from us personally, or if you think there's a good opportunity for us to help you grow your school, then what we'd like to do is chat with you. We'll do a little bit further qualification to see if we feel comfortable with perhaps working with you. And let me give you an example of some schools that have been really valuable before I get into the meat here. Is 5 new members that we've worked with in the last couple of months all fit a similar profile. 300 active students grossing between 25 and 35,000 a month. All of those schools, we're going to be able to get them to net what they're currently grossing within a year or so. And Mr. Wright, Mr. Preira, is that a fair thing to say from what you've seen with our other members? Is it ridiculous to say that a school now grossing 30,000 a month, we get them to net 30,000 in 12 or 18 months? Or does that make sense?
No, 30,000 is low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I stole that as our, quote unquote elevator pitch from Colby Winkler, who's vacationing for a couple of weeks in Hawaii with his family. So good for him. But what he said at our meeting in Clearwater, Florida, is I said, "What's our elevator pitch?" And I think what he said was, "Well, when I started working with you, I was doing about 30,000 a month, and you're really good at taking a school at that point and getting them to net that." And we all know there's a huge difference, right? At 15, 20, 30,000 a month, oftentimes an awful lot of it is going to people, it's going to rent, it's going to overhead. But let's get started and focused on summer success systems. And I'll just point out, we welcome you at any time to, Lansor says, what if you're grossing 30,000? Is that Is that what Lane said, Master Moody?
Yeah. That's what if you're grossing 30,000 per month? I was going to write back. Yeah, that's exactly the example Nicole we talked about. He was grossing 30,000 per month, about the same number of students. That's exactly the same example, and we helped him net that much per month. And that's what everybody should be thinking about. I think for some of the smaller schools, we'd like to get the net higher than that too. But those are those. If you're grossing 30,000 a month, the expectation should be that with our help, we can help you net that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Mr. Oliver, if I could add in, so Lance said he has 185 students. We have 200 and as of today, and last month we did 70,000.
Yeah.
So absolutely possible.
And one thing that's important. I mean, sometimes in the industry, you hear people. I hesitate to use the word lying. I don't think they're lying, but exaggerating their numbers to kind of sound good. I mean, we're pretty picky about when we talk about numbers. It's real cash. It's not like you're not talking about you did $70,000 in contracts and $10,000 in cash or anything like that. That's actual money that's made. It's not made by cashing everybody out. It's not. It's done by doing really good business the right way. I mean, Joseph, is that a pretty fair way to say that?
Yeah, the next thing I was going to say, just thinking like someone who hasn't spoken with you guys before and seeing all the numbers, it's 70,000 with 211 students with a better quality of instruction, better school management, better benefit for the students, better results, more testimonials than I know what to do with at this point to share with the community, and feeling better. I'm overseeing my staff and coaching my staff to do better rather than stuck teaching classes and bouncing all over the place like I was before.
Yeah, and Joseph,
if that makes sense.
Your internet connection is a little bit hinky there, but let me ask you a couple questions. How long have you been working with us now? It seems like it's been about 18 months. Is that right?
Yeah, just almost 2 years. Yes, sir.
Almost 2 years. And where did you start? How much revenue were you doing when we started working together, approximately?
I was grossing just under 500,000.
Okay. And so you were grossing just under 500,000. And see, a lot of people in our industry say, I'm grossing around 500,000 or a little less than 500,000. I'm already the richest, most successful school owner that I know, right? Because martial artists have a tendency to be surrounded with broke people. Why would you have chosen to work with us, and what was the value of that process?
Well, at the time, before I met you guys, I was pretty much sitting back and relying on just teaching great classes to grow my school, which at the time was working. But as we know, times change, and around the time the economy kind of took a spin, I had no response for it. I had always just been sitting back. So I would say the biggest thing was the most effective ways to be proactive, building up my staff, building up an actual marketing program that could generate twice as many students in a month than I had seen before, and really helping us focus in on growing the school in a way that's going to help benefit the students and the community.
Excellent. And if my numbers are right, you've basically added about 30,000 a month to your revenue. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, yes, sir. Between depending on the month, between 25 to 30 or so. Right. Yes, sir.
And when you were grossing about 40,000 a month, I mean, you were profitable. I'm assuming there's not a huge jump in expenses to get to 70. Is that a fair thing to say?
In expenses?
Yeah.
No, really. My payroll went up marginally, but not compared to what we're grossing, to the income.
Yeah. So generally, you've added about $20,000 a month to your net profit, right?
Yes, sir. On a bad month.
Yeah. And Master Moody, we have some chats going on in here, and I may or may not be able to see them without looking kind of funky here.
Lance's response to all that was if he could get 5 to 10,000 more a month, he'd be happy. But I guess I'd like to encourage Lance to have a higher expectation to that.
Expand his horizons. Yeah.
Right. Right. And you know, sometimes I think people in this industry have just such low expectations.
Yeah.
That and partly because what you said was that we hang around with broke people. It's kind of because 99% of the martial arts industry just doesn't, you know, it's not any negative. It's just that they haven't learned how to do stuff the right way. So it tends to be the people around you, the people that you work with, the people that give you advice, end up, you know, not doing very well. And then you do better than them. And you think you're doing as good as you can do, but usually that's not the case. So part of what's happening here, and I think Joseph and Thomas will attest to this, is hanging around with people that are doing better. It's not just, it's not about information. It's about hanging around and being around people that are doing really, really well, and getting the idea that you can do it yourself. And then with Master Oliver, Master Smith, and myself, we're trying to work with you to help you on a, you know, like as instructors, just like if you were trying to be a black belt in martial arts, you want to be a black belt in business. And most martial artists aren't black belts in business; they're beginners. So
yeah, and I think we're up to now about it's either 10 or 12 of our schools that we're working with directly that'll be at $1 million or are over $1 million this year. I can think of a couple that are every month doing 100,000, 110. 120. Steve White's regularly doing over 100,000 a month at his first location. Elite MMA is consistently doing around 120. Greg Macy's consistently doing high 70s to high 80s. He's on track for $1 million this year. Amanda Christensen is on track for $1 million. Joseph, hopefully we're going to get you to $1 million this year. Well, what do you think how close you'll get to $1 million, or are you going to blow past it?
We're at 357 with the forecast until the end of June. I just did that last night. So that's, I mean, if we match that in the second half of the year, that'd be a little over 700,000. But, you know, I've learned from you guys is that December is now our biggest month, whereas before it was sit back and really nothing. Now December is going to be our biggest month. So, you know, if we could pull off 100,000 in December, then, you know, we'd be pretty close to a million. But
Yeah.
If not this year, certainly next year.
Right.
And just to respond to Lance, to get 5 to 10,000 a month is good. I'd be happy. You know, it would almost be like saying to one of your students that can only kick at the knee level that, you know, they say, I want to kick at waist level now. And you say, okay, great. And you'll be fine. No, you continually push them to set a higher standard. And that's what the Wealth Mastery team does for us. So, you know, that would just be the first, that would be the start, Lance.
Yeah. Well, let's get into some meat. And Thomas, you said to me when we were getting started here that you are just flooded with intros right now, right?
Yes. Yes, sir.
And our primary topic here is how to have summer be your best period of the year rather than your slowest period of the year. And I tend to, and again, if you're in Australia, New Zealand, or whatever, you're upside down. I guess we're talking about how to get your Christmas break in the midsummer to be best ever. But for us in North America or Europe or whatever, we have people from all over here with us. Is what I will say is, I think of summer as being 3 segments, right? There's late May through the end of June, which is huge opportunity to get people in who want to do specifically some kind of summer program, and we'll enroll all of those on a normal 12-month enrollment. There's number 2, there's that late June through early August period, and then you end up back into to back to school period. And the way you treat each of those segments is a little different, as I think we all know. The other thing beforehand that is probably an elephant in the room that we should address is we talk to a lot of folks who end up with like a big dip in their revenue over the summer, because they let people cancel their program, or they're on month-to-month deal, or they've gotten talked into by some bozo not to do contracts, or to let people put their payments on hold or something. We don't have that, right? I mean, we're finding that the billing stays the same. A few people pause their membership, but otherwise, there's no dip in revenue. And in fact, as far as student activity, it's actually a little busier. Thomas, why don't you address that for a second before we go on to marketing?
There's no slow time. Well, I'm tired. We're that busy. You know, in fact, now we're double booking, but we've set it up through the help with this team. We've set it up where that's not an issue. It's actually it's a requirement. So we're working intros in this room. We work intros in our new practice room. We have classes going at a high level, and we have recruited parents to assist. We have CITs training to be instructors. They're on the floor assisting. This place buzzes well, actually, it's summertime, so anywhere from 2 o'clock on to 9, this place just starts rocking, because we start doing intros as early as we can get them in here, and we go all the way back to back. Like last night, I didn't see what was going on the floor until it was a sparring class. I walked out, and that's our last class on Wednesday.
And what I'd like to do is cover about 9 things that could be done very effectively in marketing over the summer. We'll see if we get around to all of them. And again, any and all questions everybody has, ask them, right? And I
think we're okay there. We answered that. We answered the question.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
one of the questions is exactly this: how can you go from just a few students to 300? But that's what we're covering.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me ask Thomas a question. Thomas, what? Give us the different things you're doing in June, and then what's your summer marketing plan looks like, and then Joseph, the same question, and I'll pick up from there.
We hit the mail very hard. Mailers, Velasquez is huge. Groupon has just come out of nowhere again, where it was just kind of an afterthought for a while, but now that's coming in 2 or 3 times a day.
Yeah, and keep in mind that's a June peak and an August peak, may go flat in the middle of the month because of those different segments.
Sometimes.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Groupon has its ups and downs. We just let it ride. We don't worry about it. It's always there.
Sure.
It's just a little different way of talking to them, but we learned how to do that through this group. So Groupon is easy. But again, all of the pillars that we've learned through this group, we fill. We make sure everything is rolling, and that's the key to, we don't have a slow period anymore. I used to worry about summer. Now my biggest worry was having staff. Now I'm training staff. So we're rocking. And then when around, it'll be different. Yeah.
Your biggest worry is having the staff in place so you can take some time off, right?
You know, we don't plan time off. We take our 2 vacations a year. My wife, though, for the first time this year, although we're looking forward to getting out of town on the 4th, she asked, she goes, you know, we're kind of busy. Should we take time off? I looked at her and says, do you not want to take time off?
Yeah.
For that. But I'm considering just staying open, but we'll take time off. I don't know. We're just busy.
That's an aside. Joseph, pick up from there. What's in your marketing plan for the summer? What have you been doing in June? What do you have lined up for July and August?
All right, yeah. For June, we're just finishing up some of the after-school enrichment programs that we had set up in the school districts through the PTA. We have for the month of June, we were also reaching back out to our last 12 months of leads that didn't enroll following Master Moody's plan, with multiple every avenue possible, text, email, postcard. All the discussion that we've had recently on Facebook marketing has helped us tremendously. That's starting to pick up, which is nice. And then we've got several camps and external events scheduled throughout the summer, in addition to our summer camp here at our school.
Yeah, yeah. And let me pick up from there, and then we'll rotate around for everybody. One of our schools here, Alan Ogle, he booked 58 appointments this last weekend. He's so busy with intros, I couldn't pry him loose to join us today. And then who was it, Master Smith? Another one of our members with the Wonder Woman movie. Oh, that was Amanda Christensen. Booked, I think it was 85 appointments with a movie theater promotion with the Wonder Woman movie promotion. And if you go through that list of 9 things, I mean, let's just start with a couple of them. And the reason I segment summer kind of in 3 parts. One thing we think all through the year is that we're not only generating new enrollments, but we're also generating leads. Those leads can be people who came in and didn't enroll. They can be people who opted into the website and never came in. They can be people that we interacted with on anything from a birthday party to a website lead to some other live event. But May, June is the time, and Thomas, you mentioned direct mail. May, June is the time to really hit everybody who's expressed an interest but not enrolled. And what I see a lot of times with a Taekwondo school who does a lot of birthday parties, or an MMA school who has a lot of friend referrals or a lot of website opt-ins, is we all tend to make a really hard run at them in the first couple 3 days, maybe the first couple 3 weeks, if somebody is fairly good, but then they get forgotten about. And what we know is May, June is a big time for people to be looking at what's something special I can do over the summer. August, September is a big time for, hey, summer's over, what do I do now? What's the new activity? Those are 2 periods when one secret to big summer success is to go back through both your dropouts, but all of the people who've expressed an interest and get back to them. Now, what the bozo explosion in our industry has one of the things that there's a bunch of people who are selling email autoresponders and stuff, and the dumbest idea is just put them in an email autoresponder, and if they're interested, they'll come in. What I want everybody to anchor in on that side is email is dying a slow and painful death. It's not dead, still useful, but it's dying a slow and painful death. Far and above effectiveness of email, and take this stat, the average human being is getting, in North America, 148 emails a day, and the average person is getting 4 pieces of direct mail a day. Which is more likely to be seen, which is more likely to be kept, and which is more likely to be responded to, right? Number 2 is text messaging is the new 100% open rate. It's kind of like the old movie, You've Got Mail. Nobody sits around and anticipates an email anymore. What they do is they dread looking at their email. And again, I have a high school, my daughter's in high school. She doesn't look at her email. My daughter looks at Snapchat, a little bit of Facebook, uses text messaging a lot, uses FaceTime. If I sent her an email, I'd have to tell her a month from now, have you ever even looked at that? And the answer would be no. So what we know is if you just rely on something like email, it doesn't work. And we also know that, Joseph, you mentioned a minute ago, one of the things that we're teaching everybody is to go through everybody who's been a student, go through everybody who's been a prospect, and advertise to them on Facebook. So we can be getting to them on Facebook, showing ads to them regularly, getting them engaged. And I'm talking about paid advertising as well as, posting on your page and all that stuff. We can go after those same people on Facebook and call them and mail to them and text to them and email to them and automate, send them a voicemail. There's so many ways of getting to them. Joseph. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to clarify as well, just to back up what you said, is so people understand this really clearly. The people that went to a birthday party 6 months ago and came in and gave you lead information that didn't enroll, that said no, are way more likely to enroll maybe when summer comes up than somebody that's just off of a mailing list. Mm-hmm. One of our questions here was about using EDDM, the Everyday Direct Mail, as a marketing tool. Every door direct mail, sorry. And that they had, I guess Lance had asked, they used the Dan Kennedy template for direct mail and did 2 cards a month, and got 1 lead. Very bad results. And typically with every door direct mail, that's not atypical, because those aren't qualified leads at all. They're not to even a targeted mailing list. They're just to everybody.
Yeah.
The post office.
And he said he used a Dan Kennedy.
That's the process.
Yeah, I mean, Dan Kennedy is a good friend of mine. I work with him a lot, and have worked with, most anybody in that little niche who's direct mail, direct response marketing people. But that's not the direct Kennedy formula, right? The Kennedy formula is the number one thing, or the J. Abraham formula and all those guys, the number one thing that makes direct mail work, the number one most important thing for any advertising is the list. And so what you're saying, Master Moody, is, all you have with every door direct mail, and it can be made to work, but all you know is they live in that neighborhood over there. You don't know if you're in the kids market, whether they have kids. You don't know how old their kids are. If you're in the adult market, you don't know whether they're in a walker and they're 85 years old or they're 32. The only income demographic you know about is, I looked at that neighborhood and it's mostly 3-car garages, right? They may be renters, they may be owners, they may be broke, they may be bankrupt, they may be 85, they may be 22. You really don't know much more than that. And before I go on with that rant, I do know the post office is trying to make that more effective, and you can make that a positive return on investment. But the number one thing that that Kennedy teaches is the thing that's most likely to make direct mail work is the list. That's why when Thomas said mailing, I'm sure what you meant, Thomas, was first focus was everybody who's raised their hand. And you've had so many leads come in over the last year, 2 years, 3 years. You've got a big mailing list, and you can mail that mailing list till you're blue in the face and have plenty of results just from that.
Yeah,
But
and people need to understand, because I think sometimes the tendency is to think they came in, they did the birthday party, and they didn't want to sign up, so therefore they're less qualified. They're still more qualified because they know us. They're they at least were exposed to us a little bit, hopefully in a positive way, and they're a much higher return on that than just mailing to everybody. So anyway, the other question that we had on here, Master Oliver, that I think we addressed a little bit ago, when we asked whether some of our members take pauses, you mean a freeze in member payments or just a voluntary leave like vacation. I mean, the idea is that if you do your process right, once people come in, they're going to be happy and comfortable enrolling on a 12-month membership, and then later to, for us, for a 4-year or 7-year membership, for some people, at least 3 years. So that but the main thing is that they're setting goals towards becoming a black belt, or depending on what style of martial arts, some other goal, so that, during the summer, they're more likely to train. And then if they miss some time, we can handle that another way, rather than having them just quit and decide every month that they're going to just, they're month to month, so they're deciding every month they may not pay us. So so we don't do a freeze in member payments just because we don't need to.
Can I add to that, please?
Of course.
This time of year, people take off for a couple weeks, some of them a couple months. We have students that do that. We have a lot of them that do that. But when they leave, and something I got from this group, we just kind of enhanced it. When they're not back within a week, we know they're gone. Most of them, we know where they are, but we send them letters anyway. Now we're acting like they just disappeared and we're on a major hunt, and they get postcards from our school, but they're written by our CITs. They're written by our instructors. I personally send one. My wife personally sends one. We send emails. I mean, we just totally blast, like, oh my gosh, where have you been? Are you okay? And we know where they are, and we're, and it's working. We're getting people back. We have major campaigns on students who have said they had to take time off, and we put them up on a board, something I got from this group from the very beginning. I don't know if that's something that Grandmaster Smith did or if it was from Buzz Durkin, but we put their attendance card on our dry erase board and big circle around it says, get this person back. And then we have Operation David or Operation Sally, and we go right after those individuals, and they're coming back. So it's not a slow time of year if you keep hitting it. And the hot list is another thing that we learned. I know I'm taking up some time here, but the first thing you taught me, Grandmaster Oliver, and this has been about 2.5 years now, was the hot list. And that's the first thing I went after. My first mistake was EDDM because it was so labor intensive. Master Moody said, no, you need to do this. And so he steered me back to Amazing Mail. We use Amazing Mail and Vistaprint now. They have literally, it's got to be over 1,000 leads now. It's got to be. My daughter uploads them regularly. And that's who gets the high dollar postcards. And we get something back out of that every single time. We do it monthly.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're birthday party people. They're people who didn't sign up from a mailer or off our website. And,
Yeah.
You don't give up on them. The bottom line is you don't give up on those guys.
No,
Well,
they'll be back.
and the question was, does your revenue dip over the summer? And I've talked to schools that, you know, their billing is $15,000 a month in April, and then they drop $5,000 in June, July, and August, and that's just crazy. I mean, everything should be focused on goal setting, and you can always add time that they miss if it's significant, but you don't ever have to pause the payment. You keep the payment going, you give them the makeup time, and you work on that. But it is certainly a reason why you don't just, you know, $99 down, $99 a month, no agreements, drop out anytime you want, start back anytime you want. What happens is that doing anything like that exacerbates dropout rate. It kills your cash flow in the summer. And what, you know, staying on the summer thing is, a couple of you mentioned doing summer camps, and I got to tell you, I've never been a huge fan of them, although I recognize that there is a huge amount of revenue that can be done if you do it right. And I've coached some folks to, one of our members was doing $3 million over the summer. Now that's unusually at 4 facilities and predominantly transport after school care. And I think 160 people, at about 600 a month per facility. But what I will say is most Taekwondo schools or Shotokan schools or whatever, people who are in the kids and family market, what they tend to do is do that because they don't know how to make money otherwise, rather than doing that because it's truly a valuable addition and because they have a complete separate staff, they're not going to burn out. So I'll see folks that the school goes from 30,000 to 20,000, and then the summer camp does 10 or 15, and they think that that's a great idea. Well, if the school's at 30, we want to get the school to 50 or 60. But if the school's at 30, it certainly shouldn't dip over the summer. In fact, it should be still in a growth trend. Does that make sense? But anyway, going to those 9 things that you can do over the summer, and I want to be cognizant of the fact that we have Thomas, you're in kind of the kids, family, adult market. Joseph, you're kind of in that same market. A couple of our MMA guys couldn't make it today. But we have schools that are MMA, Krav Maga, Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We have Taekwondo, Shotokan, I mean, Kung Fu, everything in the order. But to generalize, I'll say we have some that are predominantly adult male or adult focused. Sometimes they add kids programs. We have others that are predominantly kids and family focused. And the fact of summer being super strong applies across the board. One example is Jeff Patterson. He couldn't make it today, but he is in Portland. Joseph, Thomas, Master Smith, you guys all heard his numbers at our last meeting, but he's doing between 6 and 10 introductory appointments per day from Facebook. Now, think of Groupon and Google as being similar entities. May, June is a big time for people to be looking for summer activity. Therefore, search can spike. Groupon is a very similar thing. People go search for activities or they get it in their email, either way. But it's a time when May, June, they can spike. Parents or adults are looking for something to do. August, September, those 2 things can spike. However, search, typically in Google terms, click inventory is not likely to be very strong end of June to early August. Sometimes there's exceptions to that. The thing I like about Facebook is it's the opposite. Go back to mentioning Dan Kennedy. I think I got this from him. I'm not sure where I stole it. I didn't make it up, but it's marketing in a vacuum. In other words, getting to people before they're out looking for a martial arts school, rather than waiting around for them to go Google you. You know, it used to be Yellow Pages. What I like about Facebook, what I like about what Jeff's doing, what I like about Travis Took, Team Took, and Houston, what they're doing is they're getting to people on Facebook with effective paid advertising. And by the way, Jeff's numbers were what, guys, remember, I think it was 25 enrollments last couple of months from Facebook on about a $1,200 ad spend. And I think Travis, Team Took, he was doing 6 or 8 enrollments a month from Facebook on about a $500 ad spend, if I remember those numbers correctly. But those are both about right.
Over that. Yeah, and those are accurate numbers. And I think that it's important to point out when we say this, just so everybody's clear, in case you're not, that's one of the activities they do. Jeff's doing a bunch of other stuff as well. And of these 9 things, what we get asked a lot of, or what we get asked a lot is, what's the one thing you do to get all the members? We get asked that all the time. And the answer is, the one thing is like 9 things, 20 things. We're doing lots of different things. And Thomas, Joseph will tell you that too, is you've got to be doing multiple things. So the Facebook advertising, for example, I would also say there's a lot of people telling you to do it wrong, or they're just, you can waste a lot of time and you can absolutely waste a ton of money. It's very frustrating for us because we see people doing that, and then we gotta, we can help you fix exactly how to do it. So there's very specific steps along the way that you need to follow that are real effective, but there's so many people telling in our industry and then people outside of our industry that are trying to market to you that are doing a lot of things that just won't get you any results.
Yeah.
The one thing
important to add there. Go ahead, Master Smith.
Yeah, the one thing Master Moody said there that was very important. The one thing that we do every month is a lot of things, and it's a Parthenon of directional marketing it, because you never know which one's going to be the home run. But it just seems like every month when we put enough ads out there in different markets, there's always 1 or 2 that are the home run. Mm-hmm. They're not always the same one. And the good thing about our group is that when we hear how another school did it, it's that one missing ingredient that made it not work for you. And then you hear how it was a home run for them. And then you make one little adjustment to it. So that's the advantage of having a group of peers that are all doing similar things. Some are running them successfully. Some are missing an ingredient that we can correct for them right away.
Oh, absolutely. And what I would add to that is, see, so many of the schools that feel like they're somewhat successful or feel like they're very successful fit where Joseph used to be. I mean, Thomas, when you came in, you didn't think you were successful. You thought you were on the verge of bankruptcy, and we'll talk about that. But an awful lot of schools that are doing 30, 40, 50,000 a month, Joseph, you were doing about 40, are surrounded by people who, I mean, that's the kind of the high end of the pinnacle for them. And what a lot of the going around in the industry, and I not too charitably call it the bozo explosion, but there's a lot of my good friends of mine, and there's a lot of the fairly big organizations, and I talk to people who are members of theirs, and they tend to look like what Lance was saying a minute ago, which is 180, 200, 250 students doing 30,000 a month, think they're setting the world on fire, and thinking about incremental growth. And what we work on is 4 areas: getting more new people in the door, and again, we're going to keep talking about that for summer. Converting a higher percentage of them to enrollments. Like Thomas, you mentioned Groupon. Most people I talk to who have traffic coming in from Groupon or a similar source are doing horrible conversion rates. We're getting 75, 80%. So getting that to work, but also working dramatically on student retention, lifetime student value, and also really working on having a program structure and a tuition structure that works for people. Master Smith, you were saying something. Did I interrupt you?
No, we were good. I finished.
Okay. But going back to those 9 things over the summer, let's summarize them into some general categories. Summer is a marvelous time for student referral activities. It's a great time. If you look at my my 9-year-old, and I'm not talking about just kids market, adult market as well, but if you look at my kids, I mean, it's a time when their friends are trying to join them all the time. I'm kind of the weird entrepreneur of the group, so all the parents are trying to pawn their kids off on me or Chase's mom over the summer. What you find is it's a great time for buddy days, and it's a great time for events, and it's a great time for special things where you get the friends in. An awful lot of people, again, have buddy days or events or something, but don't do a very good job of converting them. And what I'll point out is, again, dumbassery number 1. I was listening to some little video that somebody put out recently, and he was saying, "Oh, we don't want to be pushy. They have a gift bag, and we put a rack card in the gift bag." No, that doesn't work. I mean, they're going to get a few, but what you have to do is you have to have all their contact information, name, address, phone number. If it's a kid, you want the kid's name and birthday. You want the parents' information. But also, what we know nowadays is the good thing is the mobile world. Means we can use texting and Facebook and Snapchat and all that stuff. The bad thing is people don't answer their phone, right? So, if you call a list of 100 people, you may get hold of 5 or 10 of them the first pass. What that means is we've got to be much more effective at making an appointment on the spot, not relying on us to contact them, and never hoping that with a piece of paper that they're going to, treat it like gold, take it home, put a magnet on the refrigerator, put it in their planner, and initiate a call to you, because it just doesn't happen, right? Master, you and I have talked about that a lot. I mean, there's an awful lot of really bad advice among the bozo explosion.
And the one thing you said there, Master Oliver, that everybody, I hear school owners tell me all the time, I can't get them to give me their contact information, and or I can't get them to make an appointment. That's because they don't know how to do it. Anytime they participate in anything, I mean, you take your kid to rebounders or any of these other kind of kids activities or even adult activities, they have you sign a waiver, and that's all we do is we have them sign a waiver. But then making that appointment is a learned process that we teach all of our members. And nothing is more valuable and saves you hours and hours of time of being able to have that appointment right on the spot, rather than have to make 100, not 100, but make a bunch of calls to try to get them to make an appointment later. It's impossible.
Yeah, and so I think in a lot of the things, what you're saying in this, everybody should mark this down, that this applies to lots and lots of other activities and referral activities. And the other thing you said, Master Oliver, was referrals a good time for summer. What we're not talking about is, bring a buddy and get a little prize and things like that. Those kind of programs, it's fine to do. But bigger events are going to give you a lot more bang for your buck and time. But you have to be able to do what we're talking about here, which is ask for the appointment. Believe me, Master Smith is right. We hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I can't get the information," or "I can't get that." But as long as you train people, I've got 10-year-olds that do a great job of asking for the information. They can ask for appointments all day long. At the meetings we do, my son is 15. He's like the best one at it, and you guys have met him, and he's outgoing, but I mean, he's a 15-year-old. So you call can really do it, but we got to detail actually those steps. We won't, we don't have time for that today, but it's really important.
And to give a benchmark is, Joseph, you've done a flood of enrollments directly with programs with elementary schools that we've coached you on, which is, high five, that's great. Well, one of my pet peeves, I'm now going to find anybody like $200 that ever uses the word school talks, because I'm talking to people who have, my idea from the 80s and 90s, and it got stolen, repackaged, sold, but the key ingredient that made it work is missing. And if you go and deal with a bunch of people and give them a flyer, and say, hey, give us a call if you're interested, guess what? Most of them don't call. If you say, hey, we have a special class on Saturday, come on down, and you say that to a 9-year-old, not only does the 9-year-old not remember, the 9-year-old doesn't tell the parent doesn't act on it, it doesn't work. And what our numbers are, if we have an event where they're coming into our school, we're getting essentially 100% of the contact information, and typically getting worst case 50%, maybe best case 75 or 80% of them making an appointment on the spot to come back. And that's again because of staffing and scripting and so forth. Joseph, Thomas, is that sound like about the right ratio?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
If we're going out to public elementary school, private elementary school, other organization, and we're doing not a school talk, but I'm going out to, let's say, teach all the PET classes, or I'm going to a summer Bible camp, or I'm going to a scout troop, or I'm going a Girl Scout or Boy Scout troop, I'm going to the local community center, I'm going to the Children's World, whatever it was during the school year, you know, I can go to an elementary school of 500 kids, I'll get 80% of them will turn in permission slips, name, address, phone number. At least half of them will check off that, yeah, we'd love to take advantage of a special free trial offer. Would you please contact us to schedule an appointment? Now, get the difference between those numbers. I go to a little school talk, and I talk to Mrs. Jones' third grade class of 35 kids, give them a flyer and say, come down on Saturday. Yeah, I get 1 or 2.
That's being optimistic. Don't even say that. I think if you hand out 30 flyers at a class, you're going to be lucky if you get one of them to even call you or do anything.
Yeah, but I don't get much, right? On the other hand, if I go to the elementary school and maybe a little bit more time, I spend a day, I get 800 leads, and 2 of them have said, hey, I'm very interested. Guess what? That's the time to use direct mail. That's the time to put somebody on the phone. That's what we're talking about. Is so many times when Grandmaster Smith and Senior Master Moody and myself, when we talk to school owners, they're seeing this little picture of some dumbass who have given them like half an idea and are working, you know, furiously. I don't know how many people tell me, well, birthday parties don't work, or events don't work, or, you know, I'm doing a lot of effort and I don't get many enrollments. Thomas, what kind of enrollment flow are you getting from birthday parties nowadays?
It's constant. And the whole idea is, you know, when you bring that up, I always have the picture in my mind, and I've seen it too, and I just shake my head now. You know, the picture of, or if you work that hard to throw a party for an hour or so, and then you say, okay, let us know, just go over there, go see so-and-so and sign up, or let us know if you'd like to.
Guess what? That doesn't work.
Out of that, it ain't gonna happen. But it's so easy to make it happen. You just gotta sit down, you gotta listen, write it down, and put it to work. That's it. Yeah. It is that easy. It takes nothing else.
Yeah, and we're about, 55 minutes into it, and I don't mind going a little bit longer because we've got such a long list of things to cover. Joseph and Thomas, I want to be respectful of your time. If you have time to stay with us, and Master Moody, I know you're Senior Master Moody, I know you're in the middle of a big ATA event in Little Rock, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sorry. I thought that was a rhetorical.
A wonderful time of year to be in Arkansas.
That's why I'm inside in the air conditioning.
Yeah.
Luckily, everything's inside. It's a great event. They do a great job here. I was lucky to be able to get away because they've got so many great things happening. A lot of our guys, our ATA guys, can't be on the call here because they're busy at the events. Fantastic stuff happening, but I wanted to make sure I got some time to talk to everybody and be here for that.
They do a wonderful job with that. Now, going back to our list of 9 things here, and as a pause here, Bob, your phone number is 720-256-0208. 720-256-0208. For all of you guys who are a good fit, I'd love to make sure you get a physical copy of both of my books. I don't have the other one here anywhere. If you haven't gotten that, we'll mail that to you. And if you want to give Bob a call, and Bob, you can take calls even now, since we have plenty of stuff to say with or without you actively engaged with it. I don't wait till we're right at the end and everybody calls at once. Feel free to text him at that number, by the way, as well, and tell him when a good time is. And what we're going to do is we're just going to have a little conversation and share with you some of our benchmarks about student value, about what kind of results you should get. And again, Lance, Lance is one of those guys who's been around forever, worked back and forth with a lot of different people. I've got to tell you, there's an awful lot of my friends that I worked with through EFC or people who are working with Maya and Dave Cover and so forth, who have gotten to a plateau and have just not gotten that next step where it should be. And we're not the ones to take a $2,000 a month school and show you how to get going from there. But we're Thomas, when you started working with us, what kind of revenue and what kind of active were you at?
We had no revenue, and I had 75 active. It was horrible. And I was going down for back surgery, and we were getting FedExed about closing, taking the house and stuff. And,
well, you were doing what, about $7,500 a month, and just not breaking?
About $6,000.
About $6,000.
Yeah, it was that bad.
And what's your best month of the year, and what's your typical month of the year now?
Typical month is going to be right around 40.
Yeah.
And, our best month was just under 60.
Okay.
The one where Senior Master Moody got mad at me for not selling another $125 somewhere. That's how close we were to 60. And now we're budgeted to hit $750,000 and grow. That's not our path.
And I keep yelling at you about why aren't you, both of you guys, about it should be $1 million this year, because there's no reason not to keep accelerating.
Yes, sir.
But I'm always really warm, touchy-feely, gentle about that too, right?
Yeah.
No, that's it. No one ever. But again, so you've got, on the way out of business, house in foreclosure, rent on the precipice, to easily you're going to be a $750,000 school this year.
Oh, yes, sir.
And you've been in real strong numbers. How many active are you at now?
We're still under 300.
Yeah.
That's about to change. So, the intros are, we are, and the enrollments now are just rolling.
Yeah.
We're picking back up.
And I was just there recently. He has a great program. His school looks fantastic. He went in and repainted everything and framed everything out, and the school shows so well now, and his staff is so on top of everything that now those intros are so much more valuable because he's getting them enrolled and everything fits with his program, the look and feel and everything. I was very impressed when I was there recently.
Yeah, but let's do a little bit of a summary here. Is one thing to take away so far, and there's, this could be a 2-day session, but one thing to take away is there should never be a dip over the summer. Is the students keep paying their tuition, they're all on long-term goals. You don't stop their payments, you don't set yourself up so that they drop out and come back. That's number one. There should never be a dip. There should be a continual revenue coming in from everybody who's already enrolled, and the enrollment numbers should be even stronger, not weaker, over the summer. So that's one. You got to take that away, because that's an important one. Number two, expand your vision of what's doable with your school. Is a school of 300 active. We have schools of 300 active that'll be $1 million a year schools this year. We have some schools. I think our biggest one we're working with is 1,600 active. But you don't have to be 15,000 square feet and be a monolith to make a lot of money. And by the way, the school with 1,600 active is at around $200 a month average revenue per student. So they're doing $350,000 a month. Again, that's serious business. But
and Master Hall, I was going to say that that's the thing with Mr. Wright. His school is doing really well and doing those kind of numbers and that size, it's not a huge school. It's
Yeah.
not a huge facility, and we see a lot of people think that, these numbers, you need this big school, you need this big thing, you need to be in a big city, you need to be in Manhattan, you need this. No, these are in normal cities, in normal situations, and normal size facilities.
Well, and hell, Joseph, you're up in the Hudson Valley. That's kind of Rust Belt, Newburgh, New Windsor, all of that area. I've been there a bunch of times. Well, a good friend of mine used to have 8 locations up and down the Hudson Valley. That's not Manhattan. And we have some schools we work with in Manhattan. And Thomas, you're in suburban Memphis.
Yeah.
So one takeaway is, from your normal activities, you don't have to add a summer camp. If you want to, it's great. But you don't have to add a summer camp. You don't have to go do something else. For God's sake, I was talking to a school owner recently who's been running a school for 20 years, and he's driving Uber during the day to make extra money over the summer. I mean, that's just the dumbest thing you can possibly do. The marketing activities that we're showing people to do are creating 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 an hour. One example, we mentioned Colby, who's vacationing in Hawaii. He didn't tell me which island he's on. I always prefer Maui. But the one example was we coached him through, and he went to a marathon. You guys have heard this story, but I like it because I can remember these numbers easy. He went to a marathon, set up a booth. He was there for 6 hours. And we have the script and the process for this. I mean, so many people tell me these live events or movie promotions don't work. I could never get Tim and Dave Kovar to do them because they, never did it the way that would make them work. But he had 185 leads, made 150 appointments, had a tick under 100 intros, did about 54 enrollments, and the month later he did 200,000 in cash from renewals from those 54 enrollments. Now that's a pretty successful 6-hour on Saturday result from a marketing activity. I think in Annapolis he won the prize of the laziest one of the group doing the biggest numbers. Remember that, Joseph? We were beating him up a little bit when we were at the Naval Academy. The Naval Academy is all about industriousness, and now we're talking behind his back while he's in, I don't know, in Hawaii somewhere, about how, how he had the biggest bang for the per hour results. But so takeaway number one is your student revenue shouldn't dip. It should be steady from existing students. Some of them will be gone for a while. They keep making their payments. When they come back, the biggest place that people will have trouble with dropout, Thomas, you went through it eloquently. You got to know when they're going to be back. If they're gone for a while, we'll send note cards to the kid at grandma's house to keep them plugged in. We'll send emails and texts and all that stuff to maintain the relationship. We'll set a definite appointment before they go for when they come back. A great idea, wasn't my idea, it was a friend of mine, but what they would do is at the beginning of the summer, they'd have a little progress update with everybody, check their schedule to make sure they weren't going to get behind on testing. So they'd look at when they were going to be gone, when they were going to be here, and they would structure their class attendance so that they would stay on track rather than fall behind their peer group. That's a marvelous idea and certainly worth the time and effort. So the next takeaway is May, June, and August, September is 2 peak times to go back through everyone who's ever expressed an interest, who's opted into your website, who took an intro, and who was a student who dropped out. But anybody who's been into a birthday party or other live event who's raised their hand and said they were interested, it's a marvelous time to go back to those people and pull them back in. And again, email is dying a slow and painful death. Use it, don't rely on it. Utilize outbound call, utilize text messaging, utilize automated voicemail, utilize Facebook advertising. It's called advertising to a custom audience of your current customers. You upload the email list, it'll go find them, and you can advertise to them. I mean, it's really slick. So, and you can do retargeting. In other words, you put the code in your site, and then it keeps showing up for them as well. And it'll keep track of that list. I mean, you can tell it to retarget for a couple of months, but then you can go back and re-advertise to that list. So takeaway number one, takeaway number two. Then we have the 9 key things that are working marketing over the summer. And we talked about live event marketing. There's so many different places. Here, I know July 4th, there's massive events that happen around July 4th. There's massive outdoor events that are happening all summer. There's also in the kids market, there's, in the school year, they're at public or private elementary school, but in the summer, they're at summer camps and they're at pools and they're at daycares and they're at the Tuesday 10 a.m. movie at the movie theater. I mean, you can go through the list. There's so many places we can get to them. And assuming we end up with name, address, and phone number, the ability to follow up, a great idea that Toby had years ago is we would go do a class at a daycare, and then he'd send a staff member over there at 5 o'clock when the parents are picking them up to make appointments on the spot. So, again, we've got so many more things we haven't gotten to, and we've gone a little long so far. Thomas, what would you tell the people who are calling? Would it be valuable for them to get on the phone and talk to Master Smith, Master Moody, myself?
Yes, that was the best call I made when it comes to running our business here. Make that phone call and just put to practice what they tell you, because you all are giving us literally, decades of experience. And I mean, you're crazy if you don't call. You can take what you feel is successful. You could probably double or higher what you're making now. If you were like me, struggling, you would definitely pull it out and live well. I have a happy life again. So, and I tap into these guys constantly. I drive them crazy.
Yeah, Jeff Smith keeps saying when we're talking to people, is between him and I, we have 100 years of experience. And every time he says that, it makes me feel ancient. And my only response
started when you were 2.
was that,
Mr. Oliver, one of the big things that our guys, the school owners I chat with, what they're blown away by is our members' student value. We just spoke with a member, actually, I believe he spoke with Brian yesterday. He's up in Illinois, and he says there's no way you can charge more than $90 a month in Chicago.
Oh my gosh!
yeah.
I gotta say, we hear those kind of things, and we've got schools next door that do great and can do exactly what we tell them.
Yeah, and let's not go down too far on the pricing. I'll say it's more complicated than just you raise your price. But I was having a conversation one time, Newburgh, New York, up in your area, Joseph, a few years ago. And there's a gentleman that I was talking to who said just what Thomas said. And we had a member at the time who I had gotten to go from $4,000 a month to $55,000 a month. Okay, and that was over a pretty short period of time. I think it was 15 or 18 months. But he was located right across the street. So I'm talking to this gentleman, and he said, "No, you can never do that. You don't understand New Windsor, New York." I said, "Well, yeah, I do understand. I've been there a bunch of times. But you don't understand." And IBM went out and this and that, all this stuff. And I said, "Well, are you at your office?" "Yeah." "Can you get up from your desk?" "Why?" "Well, look out your window." "Yeah." "See that school right across the street, the one you drive by all the time on the way to lunch and back and forth?" I said, "He did $54,600 last month. And he's doing exactly what you just told me you can't do. I guess maybe the demographics across the street from you are completely different. Is that what you're telling me?" Right? I had the same conversation years ago. I was visiting one of Steel Valley schools, and he was doing $80,000 a month or something like that. And I was talking to a Fred Villari owner that was literally, you could look out his window and see Steve's school. And he was doing $8,000 a month. Thought he was setting the world on fire, and told me about how the best school in their organization was doing $12,000. And oh my God, they're such a kick ass. And I didn't have the heart to say, look out the window, because he wasn't arguing with me. But yeah, that's what I will say on that, Bob, is everyone we talk to thinks that if I just had another 10 new students a month, you're the marketing geniuses. If you just show me another 10 new students a month, I would be in great shape. I'm not great at marketing, not they're speaking. What can I do to just get 5 or 10 more new students a month? And in all cases, they have a dropout problem. In all cases, their lifetime student value needs work. In all cases, their enrollment process needs work. And even if you're getting 100% conversion, but you're getting 4 or 6 intros a month, that's not because you have a good system. It means they're having to fight to find you, right? Thomas, what's your peak number of intros you've had this year so far in a month?
180-ish. I don't have my stat sheets here.
180.
No, it wasn't that high, but it was way the heck up there like that.
Okay, it was some big ass number that you don't remember. Joseph, what was your peak intro number this year so far?
Got to be somewhere between 70 and 80 for a month.
Yeah. And personally, my best was I enrolled 78 people, belly to belly, face to face in 1 month. My record, which I don't recommend because we do the process differently now, is I enrolled 38 people face to face, belly to belly in 1 day. And again,
And
Joe,
I,
If I can
it's
interrupt real quick, we budget 80 intros per month. I mean, that's we have to hit that every month. So where before I was excited if I did 15, that was years ago.
I will guarantee there's a few people that are watching this meeting that's their year-to-date number. So that's gonna blow some people's mind. And again, what I would say to everyone who has been running a school for a long time, and you're surrounded by a group of people where you feel good about your results, like our conversation with Lance, not to pick on Lance, but what you've got to make sure you're doing is surrounding yourself with the right peer group. There's a lot of people and organizations that were great 15, 20 years ago who have been doing this. And there's a lot of my old friends who used to be top 5 or 10 people in the industry who stopped learning 15 years ago. And guess what? An awful lot of what we do now, an awful lot of the strategies that we do now didn't exist a couple years ago. Within our own group, 2 years ago, I wasn't thrilled at all with Facebook. Facebook has changed a lot in the last 2 years. Now I love it, right? And there's example after example after example of folks who got to a level that they were happy with, stopped learning. Unfortunately, many of them became consultants, and now they're teaching people everything that they were really good at 15 years ago. And it's just one of those things. Joseph, is that an unfair thing to say? I mean, you've seen and done everybody around in the industry. Is that being unfair, or is that a reasonable way to phrase it?
Yeah, absolutely. In the big picture of things, for sure.
Yeah. Excellent. Well,
I have something to share with you, Master.
Absolutely.
Our last live event that we did for our members was at Annapolis at the Naval Academy. And it was interesting to see at that event what the main concerns from a lot of the members were when we were talking about, problems or issues, what's the most important. And it seemed to be the major consensus for everybody was that they were having trouble because they felt like they were drinking from a fire hose. And
these are our current members, the people that we've been working with for a while, and they were so almost overwhelmed. They weren't really overwhelmed, but they were having so many intros that how do I handle all of them and keep a good closing rate?
Yeah, and that was interesting because from the people that we talked to that are interested in joining, it seemed like the biggest problem was they didn't have any traffic in the school. And then it's funny to hear our members talking about they have so many members that they don't know how to handle them all. The second thing was one of our members was not complaining, but he was frustrated because he made $475,000 worth of personal income, and he just figured out how much tax he was going to have to pay.
Yeah, it's $487,000.
Yeah.
I thought that was I think that was actually his extra income that he made over the prior year, and that's why he wasn't handling it. So he made money, but he made an extra $470,000 in addition. I think that was it, but I'm not sure.
No, it was
then
it
the
was
third
his income
one-
had gone from 230 to 497. Because
Okay.
I had sat down with a pencil working on tax strategy a little bit.
And then the third one, which it was somebody who was, and I forgot what they did. I don't know, they kind of hollered or made some kind of noise, and you asked him what's wrong. And then he just, I've just figured out how stupid I am. And he goes, what do you mean? And he says, well, when I first talked to you, I waited a year before I signed up. And this past year that I've been with you, I figured I made over 250 to 300,000 more this year than last year when I wasn't with you. And if I would have joined when I first started talking to you, I could have saved myself 250 or 300,000. So
yeah, that's our Sean Harvey story. We have it on video. We were in a big round boardroom meeting and talking about something totally unrelated, and he just like did this, and you could see he's sitting over there with a calculator, disengaged in the conversation. And I said, "What's going on, Sean?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt." I said, "What was it?" He goes, "I just realized I cost myself $250,000." And I said, "How did you do that?" He goes, "Well, I had talked to you a year before I got started. In the first year that I worked with you, that's how much I added to my income." And of course, you know me being kind and gentle and helpful and supportive. I said, "So, Sean, that's the Lamborghini Gallardo that you wanted, plus an additional $57,000, which would be the down payment on the condo you wanted in Miami Beach. Or I guess I could phrase it another way. That's a Porsche 911, plus it would be a Porsche Cayenne because I'm a Porsche guy. And then you'd have some money left over for an Hawaiian vacation for 2 months." Of course, he was in Bermuda. He didn't care about going to Hawaii. But what he wanted to do, which I think he pulled off, is he wanted to have a place in Miami and a Lamborghini in Miami, because it doesn't do any good to have a cool sports car in Bermuda. There's nothing but mopeds and no place to drive it. But yeah, that's that story. And again, I'll remind everybody, 720-256-0208 is Bob's phone number. Feel free to give him a call when we get done here. But you know, we're a little over time, but let me recap a couple more things here. With summer, if you start with the expectation that this is busy time, and the second thing that I don't particularly like about summer camps, if you have your primary staff doing it, is I've known for 30 years now that the busiest time that I'm going to keep the staff working out in the community to go round up, lasso, find new student prospects, as opposed to spending a ton of money on advertising, the number one time that I'm going to get out to do that is going to be July and August. So if I've got them working a summer camp from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and running classes from 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock, well, number one, when are they going to be marketing? And number two is I'm going to burn them out by the time back to school comes. I've warned several people about that. Is the most successful, profitable summer camps I've seen had a completely different staff. And the staffing for those camps, by the way, are easy to come by. A good friend of mine used to net an extra $250,000 over the summer with summer camp. Between him and all of his full-time staff, they put 1 hour a day into the camp. One of the instructors would go teach martial arts for an hour a day. The rest of the time, he hired somebody who was an administrator in the local school district, master's degree in education administration, who came in and ran it all, who then hired college students, part-timers to run it, had nothing to do with physically having to be there, other than one of their staff for an hour a day were over there running it. See, I mean, if you're killing yourself over the summer, your strategy is wrong. But so I guess the thinking is, this is one of the busiest times of year for marketing. It can be one of the busiest times of year. You heard some examples from Joseph. You heard some examples from Thomas. You've heard a lot of examples that the rest of us have shared. And also, if you feel like you're doing really well, you better expand your thinking, because there's so much more you could be doing. I've worked with $80,000 a month schools that we've turned into 120,000 a month schools. We've worked with schools with 300 active that we've gotten them to double their gross and turn their current gross revenue into their net profit. Big difference. But we'd really like to talk to you about that. Hopefully this has been helpful for summer. What I'll tell you is live event marketing works great. You've got to make sure you have the script, the booth set up, all of that stuff. The biggest blockbusters of the year tend to come out either now or the other time that people think is slow, over Thanksgiving to Christmas. There's a bunch of them. We're going to do, probably most of our members will do 100, 120, 140 appointments when Spider-Man comes out. Wonder Woman was a big hit. And by the way, these aren't martial arts movies. I'd love for the next Karate Kid movie to come out. Good for us, but we don't have to wait for that. And Power Rangers, hi there. We had some schools that did good appointment numbers, 40, 50, 60 appointments from Power Rangers, but it doesn't have to be that. It's all about traffic. All of these events that happen around July 4th or around, what is it, Canada Day or Victoria Day over the summer in Canada, or whatever the Kiwi version of it is, or the Australian version of it is. There's all these opportunities right now. Don't miss it. There's opportunities to get to kids through daycare, summer camps, through church groups. We've had great results with Boy Scout and Girl Scouts. We've had it where our summer camp was every hour on the hour, a camp bus pulled up at the front door, gave us a list of all the kids, came in and did a 30-minute intro, and then got back on the bus. I mean, literally thousands of kids over the summer, huge enrollments. And we could go on and on and on. I said there's about 9 strategies that are working great. We've only gotten to 3 or 4 of them, but we are out of time. Again, 720-256-0208. We'd love to chat with you. Joseph, thank you so much for letting us eat up your time. Congratulations on going from the 40s to the 70s. Thomas, thank you for letting us eat your time up. Congratulations from going from barely viable to 750 this year, $1 million if I have my way. Again, for everybody, Master Moody, Master Smith, or Mr. Dunne, anything to add before we ring off?
No, we'd really like to get some time. I mean, you know, Bob's going to be pretty swamped. You should try to call him now and set up a time to talk to us where we can go through some of these things in detail, because every school is a little bit different. So when we review these things, we don't know what the best thing for you to target is right now. And we'll help you with what the number 1, 2, or 3 things are to do so that you can get some results specifically from this.
And the thing to remember too, Master Oliver, is what happens with a lot of school owners. They think that their school is unique, or where they are is different than everywhere else, and everything doesn't work. They really owe it to themselves to make a good living, not working any harder, but just working smarter. And to remember that, you know, you got your black belt or your mastery level in martial arts through a mentor from a teacher or an instructor who taught you. But most of the school owners think that they can do it on their own by, you know, just picking up a book or a video or something. You know, you can't self-teach yourself the business system. You've got to become a black belt in the martial arts business systems, and that's where we can come in and help them. So you owe it to yourself. Make the free call, listen to what we have to say, see if we can help you. And if it's a good fit, we'll get together. If not, then at least you got some good advice.
Yeah, and a couple of free bonus, I'll put it in here. If you go to Martial Arts Wealth, I think we emailed it out as well, martialartswealth.com / I'll let you type, Master Moody, since I'm not going to be able to do it on my laptop right now. martialartswealth.com / mastermind. There's a couple of seminar videos, but there's a complete breakdown of really how we go about working with school owners. It's pretty voluminous. It's about 3 hours of valuable content from Jeff Smith, myself, and Lee Meltier. And again, give Bob a call, and I'm happy to mail you a copy of this book and the other book if we haven't done that already. But anyway, thank you again, Joseph and Thomas and the gang that you've recruited there in the background. And thank you, Mr. Grandmaster.
No, that's his army there. That's his team. That's why his gross is high.
That's why he's so successful.
Brains behind the operation.
There's my
That's exactly right.
there.
Thanks, guys. I'll let you go get on an airplane and go to wherever the hell you're going, Rochester. And I'm going to sit here in the beautiful Rocky Mountains and feel sad for you, Master Moody, that you're in Memphis for Thomas, Little Rock for Senior Master Moody, and Hudson Valley is a place to be in the spring and fall. Thanks, guys.
The AT event's great. I don't mind. Thanks a lot, Master Oliver.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.